Inside the station, bro's butt gonna explode. He rushed to the toilet, but he's not done yet. Suddenly, there's a sign on the side. The toilet door closes at 12 p.m. Then the door slammed. He didn't care and checked the time. The last train was leaving in 6 minutes. He had to put on his pants and leave. But then the door actually closed. He tried to push it open, but he was bounced back to the ground. At the same time, the radio announced the last train had arrived. He screamed and banged on the door, but there was no answer, so he missed the last train. He began to think about how to get out. Looked at the wall. It said you dropped your wallet. He felt in his pocket. Incredibly, the wallet was really gone. He turned around and found it lying on the ground. He picked it up, feeling a little strange, but maybe it was just a coincidence. Suddenly, a urinal started flushing automatically. He thinks it's just a malfunctioning switch. Then he leaned against the wall, hoping the long night would soon be over. Then he overheard a note on the wall. A man with a water drop tie will hang himself in a square room. He quickly looked at his own tie. It was the same as the prophecy, and he began to feel nervous. Curious, he looked around at the writing on the wall. Drowning and suffering. Jack will come to kill you before dawn. Especially the mysterious numbers puzzled him. He took out his phone to call for help, but realized there was no signal. And then he also found a note written on the door. No one can hear you, magically describing his current situation. He walked away in dismay, looking at the fire alarm above him. He had an idea. He stood on a garbage can, planning to use smoke to trigger the alarm, but then it hit him. If he's rescued this way, he'd be published in the paper as a toilet victim. That's embarrassing. So he gave up. Then he got a mop and played skateboarding to kill the boredom. Then he found the poster being slowly torn down, and it said that there was a murdered woman sleeping in the wall. He suddenly lost interest in the game, but soon the urinal started to drain again. He looked at the drowned and tortured words on it. Soon the water was overflowing the urinal and quickly reached his feet. Unfortunately, the floor drain was not working. The water kept gushing out. He grabbed a mop to unclog the urinal and the drain. After a lot of trouble, the drain was finally back to normal. He was relieved. More than anything, he was angry, but there was no respite. The light suddenly went out, and right after that, the posters continued to be torn apart. Although he didn't believe in evil, but curiosity made him look. There was a hideous design on the wall, as if it would appear at any moment. He became frightened. He rushed to the toilet door to ask for help, but it was in vain. So he washed his face, trying to clear his head. Through the mirror, he suddenly realized the number 259 on the wall, thinking that it meant hell. He became more and more frightened. In order to get out quickly, he no longer cared about his face. Using a lighter, he triggered the fire alarm. Then the fire extinguisher started spraying water, making him fall on the floor. Then the water from the floor drain backed up again. The water level was rising rapidly. He tried to hide on the ceiling, but he didn't expect to be strangled by his own tie. In his struggle, he kicked open the door, and the words that appeared: a man with a water droplet patterned tie, hanged in a square room. Without a thought of fear, he tugged at the tie. Luckily, he succeeded. But then, breathlessly, there were footsteps in the restroom. Looking at the words that Jack would appear and kill, he was frantic. Then he wiped the writing away with all his might. Strangely, the footsteps stopped after a while, and when he saw that it was working, he started wiping away the rest of the words. But before he could finish, suddenly, his foot slipped. He fell to the ground and fell asleep. The next day, the janitor woke him up. He accused them of locking him in the toilet, but they said the door was never locked. He didn't believe it. He thought they were making excuses. In order to prove the truth, he went to check it out, but then he realized it was a sliding door.